What's up, everyone? Just wanted to rant, the usual stream of consciousness rant on consciousness, everything to do with it. So recently I've been talking about the electrical nature of consciousness, right? So reality can be said to be information, feelings, and what we do about them, right? Everything is information. All of our senses are picking up information. It's translated by our brain with electricity, right? With the patterning that presents a physical sort of object to our innate consciousness, awareness, which is the substratum to everything. And when we talk about this, hold on, I have to take a breath. I was just running. So, everything is information, right? You can flick your hand. That is a veritable experience of electricity. Thinking a thought is electricity. A belief, this is electricity happening in your brain. So, sensitivity is an increase in the amount of this electricity. More information is being picked up. You're a more sensitive instrument. You can create connections in your brain more quickly. So the problem here with a lot of cultural mental illnesses and the way that we view them is that the symptoms are real, the labeling is off, right? And you can self-diagnose, and this causes a lot of turmoil. There are certain doctrines there are certain types of doctors that just prescribe things to make money, right? There's corruption in the medical arena. So I really like to harp on science, spirituality, and the intersect of our subjective experience, right? This is a subjective experience, what we're having right now. It's subjective because we're interpreting it with our brain's furthest best guess as to what we're looking at, right? It's not completely objective in our experience. It's objective outside of us in that it exists for everyone, works the same way, and so on. So a lot of these mental illnesses have to do with the hardwiring of regurgitative behavior in our left hemisphere. The left hemisphere has to do with the repetition of individual movements, right? And the right hemisphere has to do with the sweeping gamut of these things. So our modern schooling system, developed by the Nazi regime, hardwires this behavior so that it can pump out the same type of individual, manipulate them, and so on, right? This is basic cultural awareness, basic cultural enlightenment. The realization that the highest in power are not for us. They're not making decisions for humanity. They're making decisions selfishly, and there's just this weird kind of concept that with a certain amount of money, you can't even comprehend what it can do, or even that number. So these billionaires, essentially, and these politicians see literally just a piece of paper that says this amount of lives are fucked, this is how much money you get, sign here, right? And it's easy for them to sign because they don't have to conceptualize the death of 20,000 people. They just see their reward, and they're subject to that because of their humanity. So realizing this is the first step to reclaiming your own power. What is your own power? Your own power is the ability to hold an image of something that you desire to do in your mind and be able to do it, or be willing to pursue the inevitable challenges and chaos on the road to manifesting this greatest vision. So whatever we hold in our minds, we slowly become, because what we are is electrical circuitry. Not totally, right? We're going to get into the metaphysics, but who we think we are is the totality of patterning in our brain. It's literally a carving of microscopic tubules that present the same information, and automatically, right? This is why the matrix is sort of a hypnosis. You're hypnotized into misperceptions about the nature of consciousness, and unless you pierce into them and try to battle them with recursive logic, then you will be bound by them. You will think that you're completely at the mercy of everything around you, and thus it will limit your power. So, in spirituality, they say that this energy becomes stuck inside of us. There's resistances to this energy, and through yoga, which is stretching and opening the body, we clean out the glands, we purify the glands that literally synthesize our emotions and our intelligence, and the increase in this amount of light that we get through the yogic practice, we then sit with in meditation to conduct it, to literally conduct the electrical nature of our consciousness, of the perception of ourselves. We dig into our trauma through novel questioning that literally parses into the neurology that we have that we have difficulty accepting. Literally the resistance of allowing this energy to flow through us and naturally allow us to act in the world with the highest conception of our personality and our creative drives, right? All of these things are innate. We can't turn off the things that we like to do. We can't turn off what we love. They are innate facets in our spirit. Our spirit is sort of this intelligence that's been cultivated over eternity and has certain goals to achieve within the grand context of eternity. And the human lifespan is a slowed down, nuanced version of infinite creativity and intelligence to explore the nuances of emotionality and the context of our cause and effect as an individual will within the one great same thing. So this is where we can find justice for ourselves. This is where we can find justice at all, and that everyone's at the mercy of their own decisions. We're in different decisions because we're in different positions because we make different decisions. Nobody's better than anyone else. It's certain, there are certain character traits that people have mastered, but this isn't to have something over someone, right? Being better than someone at something makes you useful to them instead of just better than them, and so on. So the ego will cling to any of these conceptions to validate its existence, and it will hold on to things to as well validate its existence. But the human form, and in fact all spirits, can enjoy the innate beauty of reality and not need anything added upon them to find that joy. So these are just things that we have to look at in the intersect between science and spirituality, because there is a metaphysical aspect to our life, and that awareness precedes the electrical machinations of our brain. And then there are also the electrical machinations of our brain that synthesize our emotions and our linear subjective experience as this organism. So the only way to change ourselves is through novel questioning. Why do I believe these things? Are these things actually correct? And we have to admit to ourselves what we're doing to ourselves on a cyclical basis to intentionally perpetuate our pain, right? And a lot of these things are subconscious. Like, we'll sigh when certain things happen to us. We'll get frustrated. We'll give up. Our will be turned away from these challenges that we need to surmount. But through the awakening process, what is awakening up? What is awakening up? What is waking up? Is our awareness through the illusions of these false perceptions about what it means to be a good person, what it means to be strong, what it means to really do anything in the world. And it is difficult. It's incredibly difficult. And the human form is built to be a warrior that transcends the inevitable chaos of nature and everything, and attempts to find order, right? The path of least resistance is the navigation between chaos. Oh, there's resistance. I'm going to go another way. I'm going to continue forward down this path. That electricity trying to get through to find its way is your spirit, right, animating the body, trying to accomplish something. Again, we cannot turn off what we like to do or what we're spiritually attracted to, or the things that we hold in a quiet desperation that we wish one day could come true, but the adversity of the world is compacting upon us. How could it ever be possible to do this? But we need to remember the warrior-like attitude of our ancestors, when undertaking spirituality, when taking plant medicine, because you're literally imbibing the intelligence of billions and billions of years into you and coming to these incredible realizations about the nature of consciousness, and then having to integrate that into your daily life in a world where the people in power are not acting in your ultimate best interest. So we're living in a time where the average spiritualist, the average person seeking this path or walking this path, will be able to create monumental world change, not only just through their attitude and the butterfly effect of the conceptual notions that they've grounded into themselves and can communicate to others in a way that penetrates their falsehood and awakens them. You also become a beacon for genius, and this genius will channel itself through, again, your creative and social efforts effortlessly in a funny kind of way, right? Because the suffering is resistance to the inevitable and the truth. The truth, when accepted, has categorical implications on the way that we're treating ourselves and the way that other people are treating us. So it requires a great amount of inner protection and strength to be surmounted, to be able to navigate the baseline survivalistic threshold of this world, this very corrupted world. So what we see as mental illnesses are really cultural illnesses. And yes, there are outliers. Yes, there are irreversible genetic diseases and things like this. But for the majority of cases, if people had enough funds to survive, a lot of depression would go away. A lot of anxiety in our world would go away. And that turns in the energy of anxiety and depression turns into productivity. And seriously, unifying type behaviors are actually the strongest supporting actions for the individual. So actually, hatred is outdated in that it's not the smartest thing to do or the smartest energy to embody, right? So self-hatred, it's completely unproductive and unfounded, because the force that has created us has the capacity for unconditional love. And how is that possible? How is the universe love? How can we deduce this? And love isn't a sappy thing, right? Love is joy. Love is attraction. Love is liking to do things. Love is the enjoyment of beauty, all of these things. And the word has become dirtied and stigmatized within Hollywood culture and toxicity culture and things like this. But we can deduce that this omnipotent force that has created us, whether it's the propagation of a paradoxical physic or some spiritual / poetic notion that we couldn't even comprehend with the 3D physical brain, right? So, oh no, I've lost the point. So it's either of those things or in between. Oh, okay. Imagine a single entity did whatever they wanted for eternity, with all the cause and effects that are, or possible causes and effects in the universe. They treated everyone a certain kind of way. They sought everything a certain kind of way. They did everything possible to find the meaning of existence, the meaning of creation, the meaning of drama and emotionality. And they realized that the most cohesive demeanor and an actionable, personality or vehicle for creation is through love and compassion, sheer understanding, sheer patience. That's why these things are virtues, because patience allows the easeful passage of time, because we're oriented positively towards the things that are going to happen that are negative. Therefore, that we can absorb that information into ourselves and become stronger, because whatever challenge we surmount, we gain 2x the power on the other side, right? Just like lifting weights, initially it's difficult. You lift them for a long amount of time. The muscle makes that challenge effortless. You can just kind of do it. This has to do with our emotionality, our spirituality, all of these things. All things are muscles, right? Because anything we experience is an electrical circuit that can grow endlessly in its capacity to express itself. So, yeah, long-winded rant. But what's up, guys? Is this effective at all? Are we liking listening to it? Again, I don't know who I'm talking to, so I'm just kind of guessing what anybody needs to hear and saying it. It could be the most basic thing in the world. Everybody knows. So why do I go into slow-mo? I don't know. Do I? Just going to scroll up here. Any resources to learn about my perspective? Sure. So on my website, there's a quick start guide. Gives you everything from each end of the spectrum of spirituality and consciousness and whatever. The science behind our personality and the spirituality behind it, all of these things. So my number one recommendations are the biology of kundalini.com, kundaliniyoga.org, and mastering the core teachings of the Buddha. These three things can give you sort of the prime conception of the intersect between science and spirituality, so that you can cultivate, again, that subjective experience that we like to talk about. Again, the subjective experience being what you're actually experiencing, not 100% indicative of the objective reality that exists outside of us. So it's all an increase in the understanding of that and the utilization of higher concepts. You love my book? I'm so glad. Yeah, that's really good to hear. Thanks for buying it. Thanks for checking it out. Do I do any kind of art? I play guitar. I freestyle rap. Trying to get into drawing. Do you think there's an end game? I don't think so. I think the end game is just residing in silent bliss, right? In the spiritual realm, or consciousness undisturbed by chaotic energy. that's sort of an end game. But then again, the cycle starts, right? And we are infinite, so infinity never ends. Oh, and the whole thing about infinity is that we are infinity. The concept of infinity means everything forever and our lives are inevitable. And this is where we can even conceptualize grace, the grace that right now, at least if we're all listening to this on our phones and don't have a terminal illness, it's generally okay. Nothing's trying to eat us, or we're not having to run away. Nobody's yelling at us. Nobody's angry. All of those things are just would be created in our imagination. But right now, everything is fine. There's grace. Anything could have happened forever, and we ended up in a relatively peaceful circumstance. Yes, there's adversity in our world. There's things that we cannot control that damage us, and nobody's going to come say sorry for, but that adds to the drama of our lives and the potential for our spirit to strengthen, to create a more beautiful love, and so on. Why are there laws? So the laws are just natural consequences of a paradoxical existence. So initially, we cannot be aware of the lack of awareness. Therefore, everything exists, including every individual will and perspectives of consciousness possible. So that's you and me. We're unified as well as individuations of the one great same whole. So this is Brahman equals Atman in Buddhism. This is the Tao, the unspeakable Tao, or whatever. And a lot of the unspeakable stuff and a lot of the interesting kind of parabolic explanations of this were because of the state of the languages at that time. So a snake traveling up our spine and Santa Claus and all these things. Those are references to bioelectrical activity coursing up the spine and in the nervous system, activating higher parts of our brain that are damaged by a corrupt society. Things and misperceptions about the nature of consciousness and the resistance to our soul, the resistance to love, and the resistance to existence. So, the laws. Yeah, the laws are just a natural consequence of existence, why things exist. And think of the ninth dimension as the first dimension. It's descending. It's not the first dimension was created and then everything it goes up like that. It's all nine exist at once, and then you have the layers of perception. Each dimension lower is the container for that dimension. So the fourth dimension is the container for the third dimension. Time, the ability for linear experience and the density of energy. Then you have will, you have intelligence, you have awareness itself. So all of those are the dimensions of consciousness, dimensions of reality. Not like like Star Trek where there's aliens in another dimension, but that's another conversation totally. So. And what we see as the electrical machinations in the brain that create consciousness, individual frames of reality happening at light speed. This electricity at a subtler level is the substratum of awareness that we really are. It's just manifested as something that we can see because it's on the spectrum that our eyes can see. Right? And you've seen the spectrum of light and how we only see 0.001% or whatever it is. There's more to that, and it's not just radiation and light. It's things like consciousness, things like the Akashic records, which is just a record of of all atomic movement, including your thoughts, your life experiences, and everything. So what you're accessing is a stream of information. And just like we were talking about at the beginning, everything is information. Reality is information, feelings, and what we do about it. So our feelings are the chemical propagations of our body. Information is the objective light hitting our face. Sound being interpreted by our brain, electrical signals. We can initiate electrical signals, right? We can recall something. We can think about something. We can receive these electrical signals. We can turn them down to a slower rate and sleep, right? So they're just different wavelengths that we have to be at in order to perceive different wavelengths of reality, right? Like a radio station. So, what's interesting is that with spirituality, to this degree, you have to acknowledge the potential notion of a metaphysical essence to be able to grok it. So whether you are a science head, a religious head, a psychonaut, whatever it is, an amount of faith is required, because you have to conceptualize that something is possible before you're able to perceive it or do it, because you need some sort of direction. You have to experiment at the subjective level. So meditation, again, isn't just quieting your mind. It's interacting with the electrical signals that give rise to our experience. And a lot of what we are and what we think is a habit. So we parse into these things, we question them, it collapses neurology, we open our eyes, and what we've built carries out as the subconscious patterns of reactions and actions that control the majority of our life. Even just think of it, everything is urges, right? The urge to eat strengthens your will to go and get something to eat. The things that are difficult, are difficult because our will cannot surmount will to do it. Oh my God, what am I even saying? We cannot surmount the will to do something that is difficult. It's a resistance. So everything is resistances and urges. Whatever we use our will to power through in terms of resistances, we gain as strength, because whatever stresses the body makes it heal back stronger, even neurologically. So trauma, for example, and encountering our trauma, it's going into the memory. All conceptions of deservedness, undeservedness, injustice impacted upon you, and then the humble teaching, in fact, of our ancestors, that it's okay to let go of that. It's required. Nobody's coming to say sorry for it, and it's locking the emotion at the level that it was damaged at. So when we're a kid, the strength of that emotion can carry out into adulthood because it was damaged, and we're resisting the processing of it unknowingly, right? Because we're not taught these things. We're not taught how to parse into our psychology to unwire all the things that are false and so on. That's not something that a society that's trying to control us would ever try to do on a worldwide basis. But also, here's more hope. You can be fixed faster than it took to break you. Right? You can be fixed faster than it took to break you, because negativity creates neurology slower than positivity, right? Many of you have probably heard that during play, it only takes 12 to 40 repetitions to master a new movement of muscle memory. So a movement of muscle memory could be remembering a chord on the guitar or something, right? I'm repeating, I'm feeling very deeply into these sensations. And when you feel deeper, more information is picked up. The skill is accumulating more quickly. So then it just becomes a new movement. When you're having fun doing it, you're more ecstatic, you're more excited with electricity. It's being created faster. So when you get into spirituality and you have all these revelations, you're creating sweeping echelons of neurology that completely defeat negative concepts that are in a lower vibration or lower frequency, right? The higher the frequency, the more ecstatic you are with electricity. You're tuned up. That's why we smile. It's literally tuning up the electricity in your nervous system, making you more excited. So whenever you're trying to learn something or overcome something, put it back into the science. Create an apathetic awareness to anything that is going on, and repeat the logical notions of scientific discovery and progression. Now, it is difficult, but neurologically, so scientifically, the baby step is a permanent addition to your neurology, and all you have to do to become slightly better today. So choose anything. Choose the smallest challenge. It doesn't even have to be relevant to your passion, your career, or anything. It can be spinning a pencil. So choose anything that is initially challenging. Bump up into the frustration of not being able to do it, and realize the only way to become more virtuous is to feel that feeling of frustration. Remember what you're trying to do as an individual, and remember that philosophical concept. Breathe yourself back down into a state of neutrality, and continue with the repetitions that add up into the skill that you want to master, because it's as objective as that. Anything that's ever been done by any human is the assembly of electrical patterning in their nervous system through the consistency of their intentions. So our character is not defined by any one action or achievement, but the consistency of our actions over time. Our orientations and propensities to accept challenges and chaos into ourselves, and humbly integrate that so that we can become a stronger vessel of the highest. And amen. And the highest. And whenever I say these things, it sounds woo, and it might turn people off, but I've discovered God through being an atheist, right? And God is nature, source, the innate energy of intelligence, consciousness, whatever you want to call it. Can't be defined. And not to mention, consciousnesses on different spectrums of awareness, right? The angels and whatever and stuff like that. And those things require subjective experiences. Nobody can give you the science of these things to prove them. You need to, have faith in these spiritual concepts. Realize that there must have been something in the subtle wisdom of our ancestors through meditation and whatever, and try it for yourself. So, and we all deserve it. I've just realized this. That love is the smartest demeanor and way of behaving. It's incredibly difficult, especially in our world where the elite control us. They don't have our highest interest in regard. And nobody's coming to say sorry, and you have to do it anyway. Who wants to do any of that? No, that's piss. But So for the extremely existentially depressed person, it's impossible it feels impossible for them to just start meditating or just start running or do any of these things, because there's no experience of being better. There's no proof. There's no proof that if we did the hard things that it would be better on the other side. So of course we're going to be stuck in that state of existential depression. Nobody's coming to save us. The education system has completely disregarded us. The medical field and whatever, pharmaceuticals and stuff. So of course it's difficult. So in these situations, the suffering has to get so bad that something breaks inside of you neurologically. This is where a suffering-induced ego death can happen. Everything is just so terrible. There's just this unwinnable fight going on inside of somebody that eventually breaks because the body cannot withstand it anymore. And when it breaks, pure consciousness can enter the body. Pure consciousness, when it enters the body, illuminates falsehood and collapses those structures, because they are no longer relevant to our now new understanding of reality. Our new now understanding of reality deletes our past self. We're left with nothing. We can go into a crisis after that. And the only way through it is to continue forward on the spiritual path, the coping with the way that things are, and realizing that we're held in the palms of the highest. And why wouldn't we be? And realize this: the greatest sin isn't not believing in Jesus. The greatest sin isn't, suicide or anything. The greatest sin wasn't even ours. It was the initial creation of the omnipotent force that existed before us, or the consequence of physics and everything like that. The fact that we were given free will, right? If God gave us free will, then everything that we do is His fault, is its fault, right? Is nature's fault. So you while you are at the mercy of your own actions and everything like that, karma, there's still this divine substratum of what to do next, how to be, how to love, and all of these things, and you can abide by that. You're actually loved so much that you're allowed to suffer, so that you can grow, on your own terms, right? It wouldn't mean anything if you had the cheat codes, got everything you wanted right now, because think about cheating in a video game. It completely eliminates the challenge, the bumping up against things, winning, triumph. There's no sensation of triumph. There's no, I did this. This is something that I did, not God, not anything else. I felt the challenge. I willed through it. I accomplished something. That's where meaning is. And the meaning of life is meaning itself. So, what's up, Chot? My brother? How you doing? Oh, and okay, so the existentially depressed and spirituality, not wanting to meditate. So this is where plant medicine comes in, because it gives you a veritable experience of what we talked about: pure consciousness, collapsing all the structures in our mind that are incongruent with the laws of physics, evolution, the universe, intelligence, and so on, right? The past conditioning. And it's not bypassing, because you still have to deal with the emotional load. You still have to integrate these things. You just have to use your will to abide by it. It's not just like suddenly you're enlightened, everything is good. You're aware of enlightened concepts that you integrate into yourself to become more enlightened, right? It's a never-ending process, and stuff. So, yeah, big old rants. So, I guess a tip to just kind of pull it all together is, when we're meditating, we're going into our brain. So what we're witnessing is electrical activity in the brain. And when we hold the intention to focus on the breath, the energy goes there. We're witnessing the sensations of the breath. It's always there. There's an in and out to it. It requires some amount of concentration. Concentration being the concentration of electrical energy at this point. There will be thoughts going on in the background, right? That's unavoidable. It's not that you can't meditate. It's that you're a beginner meditator. So we're focusing on the breath, and then we suddenly realize that we've lost ourselves. We're no longer focused on the breath. We go, whoa, I don't know when I stopped focusing on the breath. And then we say, oh, I can't meditate. This sucks. It's frustrating that this doesn't work. But you're looking for that moment. So think about this. You're looking for the moment that you suddenly realize you're not focused anymore. And noticing this is what creates that circuit in your brain of meditative power or concentration or mindfulness, whatever you want to call it. It's a mental repetition. So the more that you do this, the more your reflexes, creativity, and intelligence increase, because you're mastering the concentration of electrical energy. You're creating concepts faster, you're absorbing information more quickly, less anxiety is being used in other parts of your nervous system to create that anxiety, therefore collects into your sole focus, which is the absorption of the present moment, right? Everything is a mirror. The absorption of the present moment, the mind's orientation around that, and then the actions or emotions that come as a consequence of that. It's all subconscious. It can all be witnessed and programmed. In fact, during the enlightenment process, you're molting your nervous system in the higher levels of ability. You're completely rewiring the initial temperaments that were shocked into you as a child within the theta state, the hypnotic state. Everything entering you just becomes you immediately because there's no interface to decide what it wants to be yet, right? The nervous system hasn't gained that capability. So later in life, we can cultivate this ability by being aware of the mind, what automatically repeats, and what we wish to not automatically repeat, so that we can notice that during the day, our waking time, and go, oh, and replace it with how we want to be. The more we go, oh, and replace, the more neurology is created, so that's our default way of reacting, right? Think of it like this. When we're a baby, all of our focus is on learning to walk. Every single amount, but just all of our energy is dedicated to literally just creating the ability to walk, and then we can just walk. The circuit's in us. It's easily activated, right? It's just a subconscious way of acting. If it's not in us electrically, then it won't play out, all of these conceptions. Hold on one sec. Hi.
Are you leaving?
I'm not.
Oh, I was just going to see if I can get a ride, but I guess you're busy.
Okay, I'm sorry. Have a good one. I lost my train of thought. I'm glad, Barb. And what's up, everybody? It's good to see you. I go on these rants. I miss comments. I miss people entering, so I'm sorry. Yes, taking responsibility even though no one's asking us to, but based on, I guess, spiritual or philosophical logic, I just have to deal with what's in front of me. Nobody's coming to say sorry or even helping me to a degree that can actually make everything easy for me, so I have to figure it out myself. And the only way to create connections in the brain is through your own will, and will can be strengthened. Just like we were talking about urges and resistances earlier. Resistances request our will to transcend them in order to become strong. The intentional engagement with the difficulty of lifting weights to one day achieve the homeostatic line of a certain level of strength, right? It's our default level of ability, and this can happen in our emotions and with our will. Anything that tests our will causes a negative emotion, and we transcend with that will, we're increasing the capacity of that will. And you shouldn't judge yourself for not doing enough today to completely change your life, because you only have so many neurological resources to create a new self. It's about 4 hours of concentrated effort to create a new self. So the constant rumination within even anxious concepts doesn't actually solve anything for that thing that you're trying to solve and make perfect before you actually act on it, right? You're trying to script chaos. You're trying to attach a linear set of steps to something that is open and creative and has a larger breadth than just that single navigation that you're trying to come up with to subvert future negative emotion. But this is where our humility, arrogance, and narcissism is, even when we have an anxiety disorder. And again, these things aren't for you to judge yourself for. They're just awarenesses that help you become stronger, right? And nobody's better than you. They're better at things than you, and you're better at things than them, and that doesn't make you better than them. It makes you useful to them, right? That's how we should orient ourselves, because obviously, when we work together, I didn't mean to make the obviously a comma. I don't know, it just kind of sounded weird, that flow. Damn, I lost my thought. So it's not real, and that it's not static, permanent, can't change it, nothing to do. Right? This is the transience of our identity. We are not the thoughts, right? So yeah, any baby step works. We only have so many resources to create a new self every single day. If we're trying to do too much and judging ourselves for that, we're acting in discordance with the laws of physics and the laws of our biology. So it's actually not smart to judge yourself. It's not smart to become addicted to shame. And this isn't a judgment against you that it's not smart. You can just think, driving into the other lane to get in a head-on collision is not a smart thing to do, right? It's just objectively not smart. That doesn't mean anything about you. It's just an action that you're doing that isn't worthwhile. So you have to admit that to yourself, not judge yourself, accept, and then reorient and reintegrate. When you do that, yes, it adds problems to you, but in the engagement with these problems, you subvert them and they do not pop up in your life ever again. Let's see. That just made me think of tools for narcissists, not for the narcissist, but for you. So likely you might know a narcissist, they might be in the family. The smile and nod completely subverts the game of ego, because they're better at the game of ego than you are. You're not trying to play that game, right? You're trying to abide by the truth. You're mastering the interplay of your listening and your speaking abilities, which is active and passive, masculine and feminine. You're trying to balance these things. They're scripting a story in their heads so that no matter what you say, they're going to come out on the winning end, and that's just not how. That's not how proper discord and what's the other word I'm looking for? Productive discourse. Discourse is the word that I want. Productive discourse requires the orientation of both individuals to aspire towards the truth rather than right or wrong. It's coming together, being right and wrong for a higher sense of truth. We each grow in truth, even if we disagree, because we're healthily disagreeing. We're saying, okay, whatever, you believe different things, not everybody knows everything. Let's find the truth in the things that we're saying. And so much of the time, so much of the time, oh shit, what was it? Oh, so much of the time it's a languaging difference. So we both exactly agree on every point. We're just saying things differently, using God differently, using terms differently. We think we disagree. It can cause a negative emotion. And, you could walk away, or you could realize that, oh, we agreed the whole time. Fantastic. Yes. Let's end it in that. So, right, hatred is outdated, and the smartest way to act and to get what you want individually is love and compassion and understanding, patience and all these things, right? Because reality is information, feelings, and what we do about it. And what we do about it can either evolve us or stagnate us in certain levels of psychological and emotional maturity that we cannot transcend unless we admit to them and embody that silent change. Can I get an amen and a yaman? Yep. So, I do have a YouTube channel. I don't really upload. And Barb, I'm so glad that you're benefiting from this. Thank you for letting me know. And thanks for the amen and yaman, guys. The wisdom, yes. Yep, humble acceptance, realizing that we cannot force change. But for those healers out there, oh God, I wish this person who is damaging themselves unknowingly would know this concept. blah, 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 blah. You know, and you talk to them. I try to talk to them or whatever, and it doesn't do anything. Oh, people can't be changed. They have to do it, you know, on their own. And both things are true. It's easy to do that. But if it exists as an essential notion in your mind, it can be articulated. It just needs not even just cognitive or logical applications. It needs an understanding of what you're trying to address. And it needs compassion. It needs incredible patience, because if you've gotten to the root of your problems, you've gotten to the stem of it, and you've fixed them, you have something that can fix that. It exists in their brain too. You just have to get that person to where they're not guarding it so much. And if they feel any pressure or any negativity or any aboveness, that circuit will not be able to be penetrated into. Their egoic defense mechanisms will not allow that psychological concept to change. So you have to establish enough love inside of you to where their entire self feels safe, and then have the skillful knowledge in order to work with them. And these statements can be so powerful that it's not just a slightly inspiring statement that, you know, wears off after 72 hours, right? You watch an inspiring video, or you talk to your therapist, you have this high of, oh, now I know this thing to combat my problems. And then after 72 hours, you're back to that line. It just wasn't significant enough to really mull over and integrate it into yourself. So it's like you have to create an experience for someone. You have to find all their negative emotion, absorb it, and still be loving and work with it, so that they can work with it with you. So you can help people change. You can say things so significantly that it does change someone's life. So if you're healing oriented, if you've had all these realizations and it just seems futile because our world's not listening, you honestly haven't become skillful enough. And it doesn't take an entire life to be able to do this. And I only say this not to damage anyone's confidence, but to give you confidence, and to realize that it's possible. I've just witnessed it myself way too many times. So yes, never give up, the cliche advice, but it works. So anyway, I think that somebody said, oh, okay. I thought so. Somebody said yawn, like YAWWN, like yawn. I'm like, damn. All right. But okay. So our psychology, which is let me reset this. So, okay, one last little rant. The statements that we say to ourselves in our mind synthesize the chemical commensurate to the quality and intensity of that thought. So, I hate myself. You don't like that being said to you, so it's going to create that emotion in your body. The more you do it, the more it wires itself into your default mood and behavior, all of your resistances and things like that. So when you say that statement in your head, not only is it synthesizing that chemical, your brain essentially thinks you've created someone else in the room who's saying that to you, and you believe everything that they're saying. So think of these mental illnesses, the cultural illnesses, right? Certain cases of depression and anxiety and personality disorders are merely a miswiring of the brain, and the consistency of statements that synthesize that chemical state of what a doctor observes to be a chemical imbalance in the brain innately. But it's a chemical imbalance because of what's being pumped out by your internal pharmacy, the circuitry that you've created, accepted, and integrated. So the only way to change yourself is to parse into these things. And remember what we said, that it's faster to fix yourself than it was to break yourself. Right? You can fix yourself faster than it took to break you. That's what I meant to say. You can fix yourself faster than it took to break you, right? And that's what these powerful statements of truth, right? Affirmations. It's not just simply repeating it in your mind. It's connecting to even the smallest whisper of energy, whatever it is. Even if saying I love you in your head makes you feel sick, we're looking at that sickness. We're questioning that sickness. We're sitting with the sickness, because when we sit with something, whether it's a feeling or a question, we begin to create discoveries. Our neurology is accepting that as a command to try and figure something out, right? When we're questioning something or thinking about something, we're commanding our electricity to create understanding, that understanding that exists in the substratum of infinite consciousness, the Akashic records, the ninth dimension, whatever, just awareness, everything that's ever happened forever and always in our life is inevitable. So we're connecting that with that feeling. I love you. Okay, why do I have difficulty saying this? Why does it make me feel sick? I love you. I'm going to continue investigating this. Oh, because I did this thing. Oh, because I did that thing. And then looking at those I did this thing, I did that thing differently. That person that did that is no longer me. It's outdated information. I'm identifying with outdated information. Okay, well, it's making me feel so bad that I don't feel like I can change it. Well, what is a baby step that I can do in my life actionably to encounter that frustrating emotion and transcend it with my will? Because logically, I know that I shouldn't hate myself or chastise myself for this, but I have trouble doing it. And that's because you haven't created the neurological concept of that literal feeling, right? You can't imagine how you're going to feel in 5 years because you don't have the simulating hardware to be able to even do that. You have to have an element of faith and logic and then commit to actions to gain the confidence and the perception of reality. Confidence cannot be gained unless you have an actual experience of your will acting on logic to create a result that's satisfying to your initial imagination. That's for you. So psychedelics increase the speed of the creation of this neurology. That's where ego death happens. That's where intense creativity happens with THC and psilocybin. It's an increase of this electricity. The anxiety and paranoia that comes from it is that as well. It's creating things that aren't there in your brain. You're over-simulating what-if scenarios and overthinking all of the things that are wrong with you. This is the medicine's training ground. This is supposed to happen. You're supposed to encounter all these anxieties and breathe yourself into a state of chemical homeostasis. The more that you do this, the more you are in that homeostatic state, and the further away you are from stimuli, right? Your awareness is so connected to the stimuli that it's identifying with it. But the more you become spiritual or awakened or whatever, the more you distance yourself from it. It doesn't automatically decide how you're going to be. It doesn't paint your entire reality with your mood. There's a layer in which your will can transcend whatever happens to you. This is where those connections establish themselves as your default demeanor. And you just have to prove your brain wrong. You have to have some sort of will against your challenges and feel the sensation of frustration. I can't do this. Recognize it as falsehood. Breathe yourself into a state of neutrality and activate your philosophical principle, which is I shouldn't judge myself for mistakes because it's objective information. That information is necessary for my success. In fact, successful circuitry, like riding a bike or doing anything, is made up of mistakes. So it's counterintuitive to the laws of neurology to hate yourself. All right. I love you guys. I'm going to go. This will be available afterwards. If I missed your comment, if I didn't say hello, don't hate me for the rest of your life and so on. Don't hate me because I love you no matter what. So, yeehaw! I'm gonna give it all good old yeehaw. So, love you guys. Love you, Todd. Love you, Barb, Dank, Beyond Sunset, Ahmet, Fabian, Sammy, Gabino, and Sim, SL1. Yes. If I didn't say your name, don't feel bad. I love you. I don't know. Say something in the comments. I'll give you a hello, a wave emoji, something.